quite a lot of dramas in the political parties as there is confusion in APC and PDP as the Bayelsa Guba have named Wiki a part of the campaign council, and then also we're having the crisis in NNPP has actually deepened as Konkusu has been suspended for romancing with the president. So quite a lot of stories when it comes to the political parties. So we'll employ you to please sit tight as we go through the stories. I am Sarah Elisha Dashima. We're doing this together with Rachel Tempe. Good morning.
Good morning, Sarah.
All right, still on the Dailies. Remember, you can be part of the conversation by watching us live on Facebook and YouTube, and then drop your comment or your thought of any of the story that is of interest to you. And we will go straight into the paper, starting with this day newspaper.
On this day newspaper, starting with the big story, NNPP's crisis deepens, Konkoso suspended, founder expelled. You can find more details on the front page and continue on page 10. At the top of the paper, Lagos Enugu governors jostle 4 investors at LCCI's Invest Nigeria Expo 2023. With the writer under the story, Sanwo-Olu says state committed to being Nigeria's preferred investment destination. Umba woos investors with pledge to grant CFO within 72 hours the risk investment environment. You can find more details of that story on page 10. And we have a report, Lagos ranked 5th best African city to live or work. More details can be found on page 12. My success depends on your support. Prayers, Fabemi tells class of 85. Says judiciary critical in fight against corruption. We have a picture story showing Oba of Benin visiting the former president Muhammadu Buhari. And we have a story that says IFC invites female entrepreneurs to apply for 5,000 startup program in Africa. You can find more details on page 9, and that's all the news on this day newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at the Daily Sun newspaper. Job racketeering probe reps panel summon NUC and the VC, with the writer saying CBN government orders too over NHF deduction remittance. You can find detail of that story on page 6. We have a report here that says Abdul Salami, ex-head of state, to chair the Sun book presentation. You can see the picture story backing up that story. The big story by Elsa Guba, poll confusion as APC and PDP name Wike in campaign committees. The writers say also named by the ruling party as Senate President Apabio, SGF Akume Gombe, Governor Inua. NNPP suspend Konkusu over romance with the president. You can find more on page 6 and 13. Police bust gay wedding, arrest couple alongside over 100 guests in Delta. You can find more on page 4. Banks distress borrowing from CBN hit 12 trillion naira in 8 months. More of that can be found on page 2 as well. Airport runway, FCTA to pay 825 million naira compensation coming from the FCT ministry. Archbishop Wachukuma charges tribunal not to prevent justice, admit all eyes are on the judiciary. More can be found on page 8. Enugu to unveil all year-round tourism calendar. Mbawo's investors. You can find on page 8. Chicago Varsity blocked Twitter LinkedIn accounts over Tinubu. Institution undated by fury of requests by Nigerians for president's academic record. And also we have downside of the paper, Tinubu appoint new NDDC board, names Ibel chairman, Obuku MD. You can find on page 8. Also we have states begin sharing of palliative. Group urges the Southeast governors to avoid discrimination. You can find on page 7. And that's all on Daily Sun newspaper.
On Blueprint newspaper, Sanwo-Olu nominees, they are planning to attack lawmakers. Obasa cries out. NPA Customs renew synergy to boost exports. Police arrest gay couple, 6 to 7 homosexuals at marriage ceremony in Delta State. You can find details of that story on page 7. More palliatives coming from Tinubu pledges to change nation's negative image. Statement coming from Malagi. You can find more details of that statement on page 6. The big story on Blueprint newspaper: NNPP sold at stake, Concoso suspended, Boniface expelled. NEC ratifies expulsion of 15 others, major leads now new factional officers. You can find more details on page 6. And on Bielsa poll, PDP's Wike Nwa leads APC onslaught against Diri. Obiodun heads Kogi team, Iwifuru leads Imo group. At the downside of the paper, Zenith Bank appoints Juliet new executive director. Pay fair wages to CGN, CGS, others. NBA tells the federal government. FCTA demolishes hoodlums den in Asokoro, plans return of monthly sanitation. More details of that story can be found on page 14, and that's all the news on Blueprint newspaper.
On the Daily Times newspaper, stall Abuja Airways second runway project back on. Wike order payment of 825 million naira compensation. We have on job racketeering reps ACO committee summon NUC VCs absolve self. You can find more on page 9. Oluibadan leaves suspension on palace chief. You can find on page 9. Edu goes paperless archive 7 million documents. You can find that on page 4 of the Daily Times newspaper. The big story says Akwa Ibom shun Chinese firm making billions from illegal mining. And I think we have to talk a little about this illegal mining, Richard. Reason why I'm saying that is I was actually watching some documentaries on the havoc illegal mining does, and it seems we are not really exposed to what illegal mining does. Not only are farm produce being affected, so imagine like in a place in Akwa Ibom where we are having maybe some cash crops are being grown there, and then because of this illegal mining, the pollution affects some of the crops that are there. We have fishes dying in the river. We have plants dying. And so quite a lot of things are being done. And no wonder here we're seeing Akwa Ibom have shunned Chinese film. We remember on Monday we're seeing on the papers where we're being told that Akwa Ibom is looking into, or groups are pushing, where Akwa Ibom can do something about the tourist sites they have over there. And we said that there are quite a number of states that also have the same. And so we know that with the menace of illegal mining, it can actually affect the tourist sites over there in Akwa Ibom, and we've seen they're doing that. Quite a lot of things. It pains my heart because when you look at it, also we're seeing that not only Akwa Ibom, we even have that in Zamfara State where some people that are being paid as low as just 1,000 naira for them to mine illegally and then give some of the foreigners that come into the country the gold, and then they go away with it. And at the end of the day, the land keeps getting poor and other people keep getting richer at the detriment of the country. So I think it's high time that not just Akwa Ibom, but let's see other governors rallying round, giving the support they need to give, because we need to protect our natural resources and not allow other people come from other countries to come mine into our country and then leave us. Because whenever you take your mind back to what happened before we were being colonized, you know that quite a lot of things left the shores of Nigeria. I will think about our artifacts that are still outside somewhere. So quite a lot, and I'm happy that the government of Akwa Ibom have actually planning to do something, or actually done something already. So I hope to hear that the likes of Yobe, Zamfara, where we have gold, diamond, and the likes of it will also wake up, protect their natural resources from invaders that keep coming into the the state to take it away.
Of course, like there are numerous effects to illegal mining in the country, and number one, which of course will cost more money to the state, is not only the fact that you are losing money to illegal miners, but the fact that if the damage that is being caused by illegal mining is not being controlled, the state will end up spending more money. Just as you clearly stated, Sele, we have chemicals going into the water that are not being disposed, because when you get some of these solid minerals, there are certain things that are being done to make it be at a form where it can be used. How are these people processing these minerals when they get it? And then we can use Plateau for example. We have a lot of mining ponds. You might think Plateau is just blessed with so many places that water is being formed. No. These are
in
activities
Lake, of
of
course.
mining over the years, and we have a lot of mining points. Now, one of the effects is that we keep seeing erosion taking place.
Sure.
We keep seeing ponds that are not supposed to be there. We see land that could be used for infrastructures and creating many other things cannot be used, and then so many lives are being lost also. And with time, if the government doesn't step in, not only are we losing money by these illegal miners taking away the minerals that the state and the entire country could benefit from, but in the future we will also have to start dealing with what this illegal mining have done to our ecosystem. Because just like when it comes to oil, we keep talking about oil spillage and what could have been done earlier to make sure that the people in the Niger Delta are not going through what they're going to, the water being contaminated, no fishes and all of that. Very soon, no matter how beautiful a place is, if it's being eaten up by illegal mining, because the government is supposed to step in, whatever ministry is in charge of that is supposed to step in and say, okay, this place is secluded, for example, to mine this certain mineral, and you put in the measures in place to make sure that first of all it's safe for people who are mining, that the revenue being generated, we have 70% of it going to the government is possible, and then at the end of it, what will be done to restore back this place, that it could be used for something else rather than it being left as a damaged place and nothing can be done about it. And also people who will come to buy that place in the future should know that, okay, the engineering in this place, the architecture of this place should be different for you to be able to achieve certain things. If not, you can have your building collapsing and all of that. So we can only keep overemphasizing and hoping that the government really listens, and not only in Akwa Ibom, but every state that has one natural mineral or solid mineral or the other and it's been affected by illegal mining, that they wake up and they do the needful. Because not only are we losing money, but in the future we are also going to lose a lot of money trying to fix the damage of this mining.
Of course, Rachel, and then let's not forget that even at the detriment of their own health, because at the end of the day, not only their health, we've lost a lot of use to that. And most of the excuse we get is no job opportunity, no employment. That's why we're doing that. So let's do something. Deforestation is also taking place a lot. We are losing a lot of trees to this, that. So I hope that we begin to look into it, just like we said. And I think that's all on the Daily Times newspaper.
All right. Let's go to the first newspaper, starting with the big story: alleged multi-million naira fraud. How URBDA assistant director enriches self through IPIS. As workers petition ministry, we have accused him of using internal syndicates to defraud staff. Alleged he paid himself 8.3 million naira and between 5.5 million, and says he has pocketed agencies' finance, directed MD, and denied 120 workers' salary arrears in 2021. Confusion as APC makes U-turn, says campaign cancel list not authentic. Confusion as NNPP suspend concurso orders for 6 months. Local government chairs allegation Ogun governor denies tampering with council funds. Governor Abiodun appoints Rufai rector in Ilorin ICT Poly. Still on First News newspaper, court restrains AFCC, CCB, ICPC from arresting Kano Anti-Graft Agency chair. Tinubu's certificate, Chicago State University logs X account after backlash. Report ranks Lagos as 5th best African city to live and work in. Saka beats Haaland to win PFA Young Player of the Year award. At the downside of the paper, we have police arrest 67 suspected homosexuals in Delta State, and that's all the news on First News newspaper.
For the Guardian newspaper, an army of retired active generals still recruiting. You can find more of that story on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. Reps Pro panel denies bribery allegations, summon VCs. More can be found on page 5. And on insecurity, we have Niger proposes amnesty to bandits, so you can find more of that. Niger proposes amnesty to bandits, you can find more of that on page 30. We've had where former governors have said that a lot of people have come out to say no amnesty for bandits. What do they want? We've had where residents and indigents of Niger State have to come to an agreement, Rachel, with these bandits. We'll give you so just allow us go to our yam farms so we could farm. And we know that Niger is one of those states when you talk about producing yams, they have it quite in large quantity. And that can actually contribute to, imagine them selling it and generating revenue internally in the state. So quite a lot that we're seeing that. Of course, the residents are possibly getting tired of attack, killings, and all of that. And no wonder they are suggesting amnesty to bandits. But if you ask what do the bandits want, questions. You plant your farm and then we have not just bandits, you're also handling with headers. Yesterday we saw the proportion of how many people were being killed since 2021 as a result of herders and farmers clash. So quite a lot is going on. So we hope that, of course, we know that the government of Niger State is trying, but they need more help because we know the way it is. When you push these people out of Niger State, they go to the next available state in Kaduna. If it's not favorable in Kaduna, they move through the forest to another northwest state, and that's how they keep moving. So we hope that the government will actually wake up. We know quite a lot is on their plate, but we believe they're capable. Let's see synergy with the retired general. Let's see synergy with our security agency, the police, civil defense. Everybody should just put their heads together. Let's see how we can clear this bandit once and for all and have a peaceful state. Still on the Guardian newspaper, we have the big story that says CBN DDCs on collision course as Forex black market premium widens, where we have Naira loses 41% value, YTD as premium between dollar widen by 19%. So you can take a closer look at the YTC and the change in Nigeria and other countries, how it has affected, and then the wide gap in all of that. Still on the Guardian newspaper, private sector okays Tinubu reform, seek input in the federal government 8-point agenda. Federal government promises completion of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway by mid-September. So wish them all the best. September will be starting by Friday. So we'll be doing the countdown and we hope that the people of Lagos and Ibadan will give the support to the federal government to complete the expressway. And that is all on the Guardian newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, governors lead APC battles in Imo, Kogi, and Bayelsa. Expect heavy rains in Ondo, Ogun, Osun, 26 other state. NIMET is alerting. We have a report. Lagos is 5th best African city to live and work in. Oyo to spend 8.6 billion naira on 200,000 households and families. You can find more details on page 2. The big story on the paper, subsidy cut windfall. Government saves 1.83 trillion naira in 2 months. We have a rider under the story, savings to be used for projects. Other writers saying Elumelu to government bold decision in Nigeria's interest. You can find more details of that statement on the front page and continue on page 3. We have stock market hits highest level. Why I won't beg federal government to release me, says Kanu. You can find more details of why he is saying that on page 4. CGN earns more than vice president, senator, and president. A statement coming from RMAFC. And if you want to find more details of the statement, you can find it on page 3. At the downside of the paper, we have a picture story, Lagos Ibadan Expressway ready next month. More details can be found on page 2. We have at the downside of the paper, NNPP's and Board of Trustees suspends concourse. We have Obu, who is chair of new NDDC board. You can find more details of that story on page 4, and that's all the news on the Nation newspaper.
On Daily Independent newspaper on Osun APC crisis, why I stayed away from the 2022 Cuba poll campaign, says Arebe Sola. You can find more inside the paper. The writer says traces party defeat to politics of arrogant exclusivity deceit. More of that story can be found on the front page and inside the paper. Also, we have NGX index record all-time high point at 66,490.34. You can find more of what is happening at the share stock market in Nigeria. The big story on Daily Independent: NNPP crisis worsen as bloc suspend Kwankwaso National Working Committee and others. Parties Board of Trustee NECO parallel meetings claim authority. Tinubu appoint new NDDC board management returns as MD, and we also have Gombe governor orders closure of nightclubs over ungodly acts. You can find more of that on page 7. Aviation Agency military move to boost airspace security and safety. Still on job racketeering probe, reps summon VCs over allegation of bribe against lawmakers. More can be found on page 7. Lagos ranked the 5th best African city to live and work and also invest. Well, there was a time that it was not. Right now we're seeing that it is. So we need to know what happened that Lagos is now being ranked as the 5th best African city to invest, work, and also live in. We have NIHSA ally fear of flooding, confirmed closure of Lagoon Dam. Warn that excessive rain may cause flooding in states. So you do well to read it and know if your state is affected by that. Kano government cut tertiary tuition by 50% for indigents. We are happy Kano State is taking that initiative. You can do well to read more of that on page 6, and that's all on Daily Independent newspaper.
On Leadership newspaper, job racketeering reps absolves committee of extortion allegation. Federal government to jerk sugar sweetened beverage tax to 20% is eased to fight diabetes. You can find more details on page 10. We have Leadership NDLEA Drug Abuse Conference now November 7. Confusion as suspension, expulsion, rock, NNPP, Concoso, and we have the Board of Trustees Chair and others asked. The big story on the paper, bitter tales about exploitation of children as maids persist. You can find more details of that story on page 4, and we can see some details about that. 15 million, we have 12 years, and we have 18%. These are figures being given of children used as maids, and the number keeps increasing. We have consequences of employing underage children as house helps. You can find more details of those consequences on page 4 of Leadership newspaper. Banks borrowed 12 trillion naira from CBN in 8 months. We still have on governorship polls intrigue as PDP APC name Wike in campaign teams. More details of that story can be found on page 12, and that's all the news on Leadership newspaper.
Just to go through this and just close my eye, but it's really the big story really touched my heart, looking at the fact that we're having 15 million, just like you said. And I know, of course, here according to say 15 million children are engaged in child labor in Nigeria, and then that is coming from the International Labour Organization. And then according to NEPTEC Act of 2050 said it's an offense to employ an underage child, labor, harbor, receive, or even hire a child under the age of 12 years. And of course we see quite a lot of them.
We see them
under the age of 12, in fact 9. Recently I was watching a documentary that was being done in Yobe State, and then what is the fact that women and children are most at the receiving end of this human trafficking, child labor, and all of that. Would you believe that you will employ a child or a woman to work in your farm, and then at the end of the day, what that child or that woman is being paid is 700 at most? It hardly even gets 1,000 naira, and that is, they work from morning till night. When you go there, you see them sitting by the roadside looking for who will employ them. Of course, I know here we're seeing that NAPTEC is taking that, international organization are taking that, but we need more effort to be intensified. A lot of children are actually going through this, and we're seeing that quite a lot is happening now. Like from the paper, it's saying some of the consequences of that. Not only are you depriving this children of education, but you are also, you know, hammering and then giving them some traumatic experience. We've had when kids are being raped, being used ritual, being used for all manner of things. Especially when you go to down the southwest, you see quite a lot of that happening when it comes to ritual. So we hope that the government will intensify, work with the non-governmental organization. Let us put a stop to that. There was a time where Edo State was being known for trafficking of girls and children abroad, for. But right now, it's no longer in one state. It's spreading
No longer.
across every state in Nigeria
Yeah.
right now. And then it seems as if the fact that it doesn't make it to our paper doesn't mean it's not happening. It's happening and it keeps going high every day. So I'm happy the leadership took it to actually expose some of the things that are happening. But we hope to see more, work being done by our government to make sure that we put a stop to this, because it's really an abuse to the rights of these children. When they are supposed to be in school, they're actually hawking, or they're actually doing something, or working as house help, and they don't even feed well. Most times you see them malnourished and all of that. So we hope to see more being done eventually by the government on this.
Sally, the statement I want to make is not coming from an insensitive position, but a fact that nobody can take care of your child better than you, no matter how poor you are. No matter your level of poverty, nobody can show love to your child as much as you do. Nobody has the best interest of your child as much as you do. So you rather just have your child in your safety and eat what you can eat, live the standard of life you can live together, and be sure that you have the best interest of this child. It's just probably you are not financially buoyant enough to take care of the need, because a lot of these underage labor and child labor always happen with consension with consent from
the
parents.
parents.
Yes, a person will come, an auntie from the city, an uncle from the city, coming with promises of, I will train your child, let your child come and stay with me. And before you know it, a lot of these children fall into the hands of people that will abuse them, will maltreat them, will put them to traffic, and the worst case in the end will not even send them to school. We see such cases every day all around, where a child is being treated. Even animals don't get that kind of treatment, all because they are being entrusted by their parents to people that have promised to take care of them, to school them, and all of that. And because they don't come as employment, they don't come and say, take, I am employing you as a 9-year-old. No, they go to these parents and say, I will take your child, I will train the child, but the child will help me with one domestic duties. But then they go overboard, because there are certain ages that these children cannot even handle certain things. You leave them hungry, you don't even fulfill the promises you have with your children. So yes, I am encouraging everybody out there, like most especially parents that feel, I am poor and I want the best for my child, because no parent is giving their child out with the expectation that something that terrible will happen to them. They are saying, I'm not able to give you education. This person have promised that they can give you education, and therefore go and get the life that I cannot give you. But often at times, a lot of parents have been left with sad stories, children being scarred permanently, and nothing the parent can do. And just as you said, some have been trafficked out of the country, and a lot have been killed. So yes, let's just let the agencies that are in charge wake up and do the needful, because it will continue to happen. People are still willing to take the risk to see that their children have this education. Then it's also the responsibilities of those who can help to make sure that even when something like that happens, these children don't go through the treatment that they end up going through.
Of course, Rachel, to break you out to know that it's happening even in the church. So I think we need to start the awareness even from the church.
Yeah.
Let people know this thing is happening. The fact that we're in church doesn't mean that these things are not happening. We've heard of cases like that. So I hope that when you go to a division here in Plateau State, it will break your heart, Rachel, when you see these cases. And you wonder, really, this person is a church worker and you're involved in this?
You're doing this.
So it really breaks my heart. So I hope to see more being done. Well, I think let's take a break at this moment, open the phone lines and hear what your views are, what your contribution is concerning any of the story. Please stay tuned with us.
Democracy is the theory that common people know what they want and deserve to get it good and hard. Join me every Friday, 7 p.m. on National Talk for analysis as well as in-depth perspective on issues as they unfold in and around Nigeria, as well as an opportunity to add your voice.
staying tuned. It's still the Dailies on Echo Television International. We've been looking at quite a number of stories, confusion in the APC, PDP, and even NNPP. Quite a lot of things jumping from being in the, campaign council to also looking at that of the NNPP, where we see that Konkoso has been suspended for romancing with the president. So quite a number of stories to actually hear your inputs on. We'd love to, hear what you have to say about it. Our number is displayed on your screen at this moment. Please do remember to turn down the volume of your TV set when you call us, because we love to hear what you have to say, and other viewers at home will love to. And remember to summarize your point in a minute and let it be relevant to the story that we are actually looking this morning on the paper. As they have Rachel Tanzi with me. Thank you so much,
You're
Rachel.
welcome, sir.
All right, let's take a look at the next paper, which is the Punch newspaper. And on the issue of Cameroon Dam opening, 700 billion naira CBN farmers loan under threat in flooding states, where we have flooding in 204 Niger community, 17 displayed panic in Benue and Anambra. Flooding in 204 Niger communities, 17 displayed panic in Benue and Anambra. Quite a lot, looking at some of the states that will be affected by the flooding, Rachel. And already we're seeing that from the papers we looked at before the break. We saw that some states have been alerted that will be having more rains, and then that is to add up but already the dam that is being opened in Cameroon. And I was reading, maybe there was an agreement, and it breaks my heart to hear that there was no agreement. Cameroon is free to open its dam whenever it wants to open its dam when it's filled. That is not supposed to be it. Yes, we know we have a mutual understanding with Cameroon, but I mean, Richard, it's expected that there should be a way things should be done. You opened the dam in 2012, you opened it in 2019. It was open last year and it is open again this year. And then let's not forget the number of people that will be affected. Already here we're seeing that quite a number of farmers, if this flood should take away their plants or their crops, they will be unable to pay the loan that they collected from the CBN. So quite a lot. This is really a very sad one, and I do not know what the government of Nigeria is hoping to do. Maybe we need to revisit this memorandum of understanding. Let's have something to sign. How would they, when and how should they open their dam? I mean, of course, I know it's based on understanding, but some people are being affected eventually. Now, you remember I said that if you're telling these people to leave their homes and go to the IDP camps, what are you promising them? Are they going to be well fed in the IDPs? Will you be checking on them in the IDPs? Already, those who are living in the IDP camps right now, their situation is pity. If you look at them, really pity them a lot. So we hope that the government will do something more. The Minister of Water Resources and the Minister will do all that they need to do to make sure that the right thing is being done. If there's a need for flooding, because we know the rains have been heavy lately, something else should be done. When should they open the dam? Nigerian dam, how should we open it, and all of that? And you see the talk of this illegal mining is also contributing, because when the land is loose, flooding, erosion and all of that. So we hope to see more being done. And I really pity the farmers that will be affected by this, but we hope something will be done to protect their crops from being affected by this water.
You can handle a situation that will affect the life, the standard of living, and every other thing about your country with mutual understanding or agreement. And this is where it keeps pointing out the fact that someone is sleeping on their job. What have you been doing since 2012, when the first release of the dam took place? What measures did you take? What have you done as a country? And if you saw the damage, probably it did in that year, you were supposed to sit down with Cameroon and say, we have to do this. If there was no listening air from their side, okay, as Nigeria, what are we going to do for these communities that will be affected by what another country is going to do? So we have to wake up and take our country seriously, Sele, because every time everything happens, it just shows how unserious we are. It can't even be the fault of another person. This is very serious, that you can't treat it as whenever Cameroon plans on doing this, we have mutual agreement, we're sharing borders. No, there are certain things that you need to take precaution that will stand, not a whatever kind of precaution that should take place, because in the end, it will still boil down to you, it will still affect you. And we are clearly seeing that they should expect in 7 days the water level rising, and this is 1 day gone, so we're looking at 6 days to go. By tomorrow, 5 days, and these communities don't, just
It
as
may
you
even
said,
be less,
it
Rachel.
might be less, exactly. And the question is not about living where you are staying, even where they're staying, how are they surviving? Talk more of finding themselves in IDPs and finding dry lands and all of that. So our government has so much work to do. The more we look at the papers, the more we see the work that the government needs to do.
Of course.
And we just hope that they are ready. And
This is a work to everybody, and we hope we
Yes.
put our hands together to do that. Still on the Punch newspaper on the issue of Niger, Algeria demands 6-month transition from Juta. You can find more of that on page 10. The big story for the Punch, we have fuel queues hit Lagos and others as thieves vandalize the pipelines. The writers say marketers halt petrol loading, blame vandals for disruption. More filling stations shut as import hiccups hurt the supply. Well, we hope that something will be done about those vandalizing, because the queues have resurfaced in the likes of Lagos, Ogun, and other states that are close there, and because of that, marketers cannot upload. We've even seen some filling station, the likes of NNPC, not even opening there. So these are some of the reports that are coming in, and we hope something will be done about that. Here we have Lagos Ibadan Expressway, federal government plans September inauguration. I never diverted Ogun local government funds 10.8 billion naira bailout coming from Abiodun. Man unleashed dog on policeman to invade arrest. Well, that's a sad one. You can read that on page 5. NNPP divided over Tinubu, Atiku, fractions, and others. More can be found on page 14, and that's all on the Punch newspaper.
On New Telegraph newspaper, cooking gas scarcity looms as FS squeeze stalls 255 billion naira LPG import. Federal government seeks support to achieve 95% digital literacy target. You can find more details of that plan on page 8. The big story, we are facing economic challenges, Ariwa traders tell APC, as Bishop says Nigerians are suffering. Food security, Tinubu will reduce price of fertilizers, a statement coming from Tinubu, the vice president. You can find more details of that statement on page 2 and 7. Reps on AGF, CBN, Remitan, others over NHF deductions and remittances. We have Bayelsa Guba, APC names Wike member of campaign council. A subsidy payment, a scam statement coming from Soludo. You can find more details of his statement on page 4. How NNPCL service agents under dispense fell. You can find more details of that story on page 8. And we have Rema's Calm Down becomes first song to chart on US Billboard for 1 year. Congratulations to him. Bribery allegations, reps leadership asks Nigerians for evidence. Still on New Telegraph, it's an insult to beg federal government to release me, says Nnamdi Kanu. At the downside, we have a study that says air pollution shortens lifespan. More details of that study can be found on page 28, and that's all the news on New Telegraph.
We hope all industries, manufacturers, and even the government is looking at this. We have to do something on channeling all these toxic things we release to the air in a proper way, so that we can have a long lifespan in Nigeria.
Yes,
well, let's take a look at the next paper, which is Nigerian News Direct. We have Naira plummets to record low of 920 Naira against the US dollar amid surging demand. More can be found on page 15. The big story, NNPP crisis deepen as party suspend Kwankwaso over romance with Tinubu, Obi and Atiku. Board of Trustees strip Kwankwaso of national leaders set to suspend the National Working Committee. Kwankwaso loyalists hold parallel meeting, reverse suspension. So you can do have to follow up that story on page 3 and 11. Still on the paper, we have gains in Tier 1 banks as investors lift capitalization to 185 billion naira. Ogun local government funding, APC PDP trade wars on alleged fund and diversion. You can find that on page 23. We have a picture story on the front page of the paper. You can do well to grab Nigerian News Direct and read more detail of any story that is of interest to you.
On Nigerian Tribune, major talks Atiku Kwankwaso Obi on wild goose chase, a statement coming from APC. The writer under the story, NNPP Board of Trustees suspends Kwankwaso for 6 months. 53-year-old Prince Ayebola emerges new as saying. You can find more details on page 5. AAU's herbal glucosine not approved for diabetes cure, statement coming from NAFDAC. Lagos ranked 5th best African city to live and work in. Bayelsa 2023 confusion as APC denies campaign committee list. You can find more details of that story on page 8. On palliatives, how Oyo, Osun, Ogun, Ekiti's others plan distribution. Wike makes case for FCT Oyo to spend 8 billion naira. 3 crew members still missing 2 weeks after Seplat Energy recapsized. You can find more details on page 16 and we hope that they have been found. You can find more details inside the paper and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
Well, let's take a look at the Nature newspaper where we have NDC seek AFD GIZ partnership to increase jobs food production in the Niger Delta. More can be found on page 5. And we have Olumelu worries over GE's threat to quit transfer power project. The big story here, we see federal government moves to avert flood disaster in states and local government areas, with the rider plans to dredge the River Benue and complete Hasadasi Dam. And we have NIHSA intensifying monitoring of the water level. We have the picture story showing us how some homes and livestock and also crops have been affected by the flood. Still on Nature newspaper, Akwa Ibom government partners Navy to revive marine transport. Nigeria, 47 African nation reaffirm commitment to tackle climate change. You can find that on page 9. British Irish activists advocate for Ogoni, the Niger Delta voice at COP28. You can find that on page 6. And we have Governor Nnamdi joins the ACR cell campaign to plant trees in Jigawa. Governor Nnamdi joined the ACRESCR campaign to plant trees in Jigawa. You can find that on page 20, and that's all on Nature newspaper.
On Sweet Crude Report, NCDMB launches 17 firms from Technology Incubation Center. The big story on the paper, JP Morgan says Nigeria to make $17 billion from sale of oil assets. NNPC's $3 billion loan to improve FX liquidity. New minister affirms commitment to completion of Ajaokuta steel plant. We are hoping to see that. You can find more details of that story inside the paper, and that's all the news on Sweet Crude Reports.
All right, let's round it up with the Business Day newspaper. The big story, corporate tax slums in blue to non-oil revenue drive. You can start reading on the front page. And we have the bar chart here showing us the 10 biggest insurance firm by net asset value. So you can do well to find where you would love to be insuring your property. The big story still on insurance sector grew assets to 2.3 trillion naira on capital injection innovation. And we have operators pay 318 billion naira claims. More of the story can be found inside the paper. Naira rate gap widens as dollar supply stay tight. And we have Cybig IBTC half-year profit soared to 121%. CBN repays 540 billion yuans as Nigeria-China currency swap renewal nears. You can find that on page 31. And that's all on Business Day newspaper and how far we can go on the program this morning. Thanks so much, Rachel, for doing this with me. And thank you to our supporters, our viewers, for always keeping the day with us on the dailies. Thank you to the crew members, the general manager, and also to the executive. Until we come here again, goodbye for now.